Hello, everyone. Welcome to this live streamed version of Bippity Boppity Business. In a moment, we're going to sit down and have a magical discussion about branding and more with Emily Paulsen, founder of Electric Collab and an expert in branding. But before we learn more about her, just remember this is a Disney business podcast. So while we talk about branding, we also may talk about Disney things as well. And if that seems like your cup of tea, if you want to have some magical marketing lessons on this Friday, then come along, ask any questions that you want, and let's cue the magical intro. No one makes magic in business like Disney. Join us as we hear from Disney cast members, influencers, and enthusiasts to uncover the secrets of what it takes behind the scenes to make Disney such a successful and well-loved brand. We will hear their journeys, inspirations, and have some good old-fashioned Disney fun along the way. So relax, pull up a chair, be our guest, and let's get down to Bippity Boppity Business. Welcome, Emily. Woohoo! Thank you for being on my show today. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. I feel mesmerized by that magical intro.
Oh, listen, let me do you one more better. You deserve the confetti too. Here you go.
Oh my gosh. I might as well be in Disney right now. I feel like it's
Listen,
happening.
we're trying to make it happen. I am like trying to make these interviews feel like I'm there, but like we're not there. Okay. So it's like a little bit of Deluluism, but like in the best way possible, you know?
I welcome it. I love that. We need that in the middle of
We
a
need that, right? Right. So on that same vibe, before we get too serious with the business, with the like business side of things,
Mhm.
I have a fun Disney themed question for you, which still I think relates to your career and life. And it is, if you could describe your entrepreneurial journey as a Disney movie, what Disney movie would it be? Why? And which character from the movie would you relate to the most on that journey? Let me know. Let's hear it.
Okay. This is such a good question. And I mean, no one's ever asked me this, right? Like, so
Yes.
you have to really think like, who am I in the realm
Yes.
of Disney? And it's even intimidating to align myself with any Disney character because they're
Yes.
all so epic in their own way.
And you are your own original main character as well. So we need to specify she is the main character, but for this sake, yes, let's hear it.
Yes, yes. Okay, so I'm going with Simba from The Lion King.
Mm.
Not that I mean, I think of The Lion King as a rather tragic tale, and my life has not been that treacherous. But when I think about my journey into entrepreneurship, particularly, it was not my idea to start my own business. I worked in corporate for 15 years before I went down this path. I loved a lot about that. Of course, corporate isn't perfect. There were challenges too, but I knew the system, right? I understood the game. I knew how to play it. And I was really just on a trajectory that was working. And the way that Electric Collab came to be, my boss at the time approached me about doing some consulting together. And, that kind of gave me the courage to think, wait a minute, maybe entrepreneurship is possible, or maybe it is something that I could be good at, even though I'd always looked up to her so much. So I'm picturing like Simba, Mufasa.
No,
Like,
I'm seeing it too. It's like you had your Akuna Matata days where you're like, I don't need to have my own, business. It's no worries. I'm just gonna do what I always have known that I've done and just live a life of ease. I don't need to do that. I don't need to be the king of my own kingdom or anything.
exactly,
Right.
exactly. I was like, yeah, I'll just be in the role that I am. So anyway, her kind of giving me the courage to do it. And then I, quickly, for a variety of reasons, I'll just skip to the point that I took it on and loved it. And, since those initial, it was really 5 minutes of entrepreneurship when I was like, wait a minute, this is the path for me. And there's so much to love about it. And now I'm addicted to learning and expanding in this way and serving the people I really want to serve. So it was a fast trajectory, but I feel like little Simba kind of growing up into that future identity that maybe I wouldn't have seen for myself. But luckily I had guides who got me there.
Well, I think it's ironic that you said too when I asked you this question and made you think, well, oh my gosh, like who am I? Because there's actually a quote in The Lion King where Rafiki goes up to him and he asks him, so the question is, who are you? And
Mhm.
I think as a question, yeah, that's poignant, but I think also as it relates to branding as well too, that is the $1,000,000 question, right?
That's
And
right.
I think, you know, unless you've gone on your own entrepreneurial journey of sorts and had that experience, it's almost hard to have that same level of empathy and you know, skill that somebody like you would have working with somebody else on that journey as well, because it really is a journey, right?
It is a journey. It's therapy. It's a journey. It's a path you have to walk. It's all the things. So spot on.
So what was like how did you feel in that moment when you decided like okay, I had this taste of what it was like to be an entrepreneur for like 5 minutes or whatever, is how you said it. And then okay, wow, I actually do want to do this. Like how long did it take from that point up until where you are now to truly commit and going all out to growing where you are today?
Hmm. Yes, at the beginning, I was fortunate to still have involvement with the company
Mhm.
where I was before. And, I've also had moments in my life where I've quit a job cold turkey and not had a backup plan and, kind of had to start over. So I,
Same.
yeah. So I don't think there's one wrong way. Like some people are like, I need to separate myself from my previous job or corporate identity before I can step into business ownership. And some people kind of do a hybrid to ramp up into it. For me, it was more of a hybrid for a short term. And that was, I'm very grateful for that financially and just mentally, security, all the things. But I realized even quickly doing that, if I am going to do this business, and I was so excited, mostly energized by the people I was serving, like those initial clients. I specifically work with women entrepreneurs leading service based businesses. So getting a taste for that, it was intoxicating. And that's really what drove me to be like, okay, even if I'm turning down a consistent paycheck and relationships that I know and a system that I'm used to, all those things, it just felt too exciting to go the other direction. And entrepreneurship is time consuming. So
Yes. Yes.
like, I can't keep splitting my time and expect this new business to grow. I really am going to need to go all in energetically if it stands a chance. And I just felt like it was worth it to give it that momentum.
It's like that moment at the edge of like here's how I describe it. So for entrepreneurship, the journey, like you said, it's challenging, it's scary, but then when you finally achieve something and like you know, you unlock something to get closer to that point where you're doing it really full time, it's like that moment at the top of Pride Rock where you're like looking at all of your work and being like, "Yes, this is my work. I have done well." It's like
Exactly.
it's like this big
Exactly.
right? Well,
Yes.
I wonder from you know, your corporate experience, what lessons or strategies did you take from that part of your life and start to integrate into the branding work you do now? Because you've worked for big brands like Abercrombie and Fitch and Wendy's and all these other awesome things. So if you could just narrow down like maybe a core idea that you saw transferable across those brands that you've brought into your work now, what would you say that is?
Yes, those big businesses take branding really seriously. And they do that for a reason. I mean, it's expensive. They have teams of 150 people in some cases that are just devoted to protecting, developing, building, maintaining the brand. That's a very expensive investment. And the organizations I worked for, yeah, Abercrombie is a great example. I mean, they're obsessed with the brand. It's extremely specific. And when I was there, whether you love or hate Abercrombie, they're very different now. You
Right.
can't argue with the fact that you walk through a mall, the scent, the sound, the look, the lighting, like they really protected that brand identity. And Wendy's was the same way, just from a different perspective. So it
Right.
taught me that your brand is the way people understand you. It's the first impression, it's the lasting reputation. And my goal is to really bring that reality and that understanding and the ability to make it possible to entrepreneurs who certainly don't have a team of 150 people and don't have that level of budget. How can you leverage your brand and build a brand that's working for you so that you get those benefits like the big companies in a way that's accessible for you? That's really what Electric Collab is all about.
That's so cool because, you know, I think when people think of branding, often we focus just on logo or colors or whatever. But I want to highlight that you said scent, you said feel, you sent like this certain sense of attraction to it. You knew the story, you understood the vibe. And I think what's funny about Abercrombie and Fitch and Disney, which I would have never thought that there's any kind of way to relate them, but I'm the Disney weirdo, is the scent, right? For example, right? There's a scent leading you into the store. Well, they pump out at the theme parks, they pump out scents that evoke certain emotions or feelings, like the candy shop or,
Mhm.
the popcorn or whatever, right? So there's certain things that are done intentionally that are a full experience, an immersive experience, right? And this is something that I've really been talking to people about, which is even though a lot of us as entrepreneurs, may be operating not in storefronts or digitally, the brand is not just the color or whatever. It's really that full immersive experience, which is why I would love to hear more about that from you. Because while you help entrepreneurs craft their brands, like what part of those emotional connections or experiences are you trying to focus on? Like what are you aiming to build with them to really bring that story to life? Where does it all begin?
Yes. Yeah. I use the phrase that we build brands that are rooted in who you are and designed to attract the clients you want. So I really think it's 50-50 about understanding who you are as an organization, who you are as a brand. So not just you as an individual, even if you are doing a personal brand or you're a solopreneur, who are you as a business, as a company that stands outside of yourself as a more full person? So, really understanding what you want the business to be, what you stand for, what's the voice of this, what is your big picture mission, what drives you to keep doing this month after month, year after year? How is what you offer different than what they could get from any competitor? How are you offering transformations that people can't get on their own? Really clarifying that piece. But it's equally important to understand where the audience is emotionally. So when I think about like what is the emotional connection that we're trying to build the one that your people need. We all buy based on emotion. It's just we can't escape it. It's human behavior. So if you drill down in a purchase you've made recently, if you ask yourself enough, why did you spend that money? It made you feel something, relieved, more confident, younger, healthier, whatever. Like it made you feel something that you want to identify with. So understanding on a very deep level, like beyond demographics and age range and things like that, what is your audience feeling? What are their frustrations, fears? What are their dreams, aspirations? And how can we craft messaging and design and a digital experience that connects with them where they are and really pulls them in and shows them you have the solution to get them where they want to go.
Right. And I find that when you are able to first assess for yourself with, either on your own or working with an expert like you, those important facets, you will get closer to attracting your dream client. Because I think a lot of people at first, they brand, now it's not like I would know this or I've done this myself, but they kind of brand their business in the way they think that people want to perceive their business
Mhm.
instead of really looking at, okay, well, like you said, how is this going to be sustainable for me? How do I combine the who I am with the business results that I want to make a sustainable and fulfilling brand for ourselves? Because I think a lot of us we build our businesses and like we don't always, not all of us started like, okay, gung ho, we had a business plan, we thought about this for 5 years and we're ready to go. You know what I mean? It kind of is
Mhm.
a little bit of a process. So what do you say about that for somebody who's just kind of like still in the mental mindset of not really knowing how to begin and the internal like side where they're just trying to build for others without really knowing how to combine for themselves as well?
Yeah. And I think that's a very realistic place that most of us do start. It's kind of feeling into, okay, I have this expertise or I have this knowledge. Now I'm trying to package this into a business on its own that is, generating revenue, attracting clients. And I think it takes some time to figure out exactly who you want to serve, exactly the style that you like working. The best way to do it is through action, of course. Like we could sit in our offices and plan for months and, think like, okay, I've anticipated everything. I know exactly what I want to do. I'm going to get 2 clients a month and it's going to give me this amount of money and here are my packages, whatever. And then you start and you're like, okay, I thought I was targeting moms over 40 with this business coaching solution. And now I realize that's not the market for me at all. So part of it, and I hated this phrase when I started, when people would say, you have to kind of experiment, it's trial and error. I felt like, this is my life, this is my livelihood. Stop treating it like a test. But now I get it. Like there is some knowledge that can't happen until you're doing it. But from a branding lens, I would try, even in those very early days, to think about who do I want, what do I want to be known for? Like, what can I bring? If I see others in the industry doing this, what am I doing differently? What makes you want to do the work? If you are a coach or it doesn't matter the industry. If you're an attorney, if you're a wedding planner, if you are starting a brick and mortar, it doesn't matter what you're doing. There's something in you that makes you think you have a better, different, more worthwhile way than what you're seeing in the world. Otherwise, you wouldn't even be considering it. So give yourself the gift of thinking into that and articulating that and try to get that down on paper. Like, what is the unique value that you're bringing through this business? And then kind of let that guide you in those early decisions and models and things that you're doing in the beginning.
It's so, like you said, I don't like the word testing either because it's scary, because it's like, yeah, this is my whole life. So I like to think of it as a roller coaster, because then it's a little less scary. It's like, it's just a ride. We're along for
More
the
fun.
ride.
Yeah.
There's ups and downs or whatever. But I would assume, as you're going through this branding process with a client, right? There may be common pauses in the roller coasters, or roadblocks and challenges that we face. And what are those common challenges that you've noticed that entrepreneurs face during the branding process, and how do you help them navigate it?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think as entrepreneurs, this kind of extends what I was saying in a different way. You're looking at the market and you're looking at competitors and you're seeing, what are other people doing? If you want to be a home organizer, like, are there other home organizers? Is there even a gap for me to come in? Like, is this a need? And I think we get so fixated on others outside of ourselves that we can kind of lose touch with what does make us special. And a lot of clients come to me, and the two big problems are, I have all these ideas. Like, I know that I can help people. I know that my services work. I know my product is amazing. I don't know how to talk about it. And the other big problem is them feeling like, well, I'm not doing anything differently. Like, there's other attorneys, there's other wedding planner, there's other whoever, like, why would they come to me instead of those people? And my whole role in the process is to reflect back to them from an outside perspective. Like, no, let's look at the unique combination of your background, your personality, your skill set, your natural talents, the things that you love doing. Like, nobody else on earth has that unique package. That's, you're a human. You bring that level of humanity. We're all individuals. So you do have something special. And I think encouraging people to take that outside perspective and see it from a customer standpoint, that there is something really unique there worth leveraging, that is always a really big hurdle. And then, once you get there mentally, we'll figure out the right language, the right phrasing, the perfect color palette, like all of those pieces kind of fall into place. But you have to believe that, you're worth it, right? That you're worth people giving you their money, you're enhancing their life, providing this value, and outside expertise can really help us see that.
Well, an idea came to mind, which is kind of silly, but if there's so many Disney princesses, right? They
Mhm.
keep making them. So if I were a Disney princess in the incubator process of, like, somebody came up to me, and like Mickey, like the wizard guy, he came up to me, he said, "You're about to be a new Disney princess." And then I looked at him and I was like, "But there's so many others. Like, why do we need another one?" And then he'd be like, "Well, you're going to have this quirk, and you're going to be in this setting, and you're going to have
Mhm.
like these characteristics." And it's like, it's kind of funny, because, like, if I were to look at the Disney princesses, for example, in a group, like, yeah, they're all princesses, they're all businesses, or for lack of better
Mhm.
words, but they all have very tangible, different characteristics and are unique in their own way. There's a
Mhm.
similar vibe, but they're very distinct from one another. So I think it's awesome that you help, uh, with your clients, really bring that out, because um it's working in a digital world, it can feel like, wow, like there's just like so many new businesses popping up left and right, like, what makes me so different or whatever. And yeah, I think think it's a cool thing that you have that skill to be able to do that, because for me, I'm just sitting in my own thoughts and jotting down and then ripping the paper out and throwing it in the trash can and going, all right, I'll try again tomorrow. I'm not sure. um but yeah, so like once you've kind of gone through that roller coaster, we've established that you know that the client has an awesome offering. We have the messaging there, we have colors, we have this, we have that. We have a differentiator, that positioning. I think positioning is important too. Like, do you
Yes.
have any tips for that? Because I think the positioning is where a lot of people kind of fall short, and all that other stuff really doesn't matter as much anymore. Would you agree?
Yes, I mean, positioning is everything. Yes, I mean, you said earlier that it's almost a myth out there that your brand is the name, the color palette, the logo, that's it. The way you position yourself is everything. Like, that is how people understand whether or not you are for them and really how you're going to solve their specific problem. So that unique value piece, like really getting clear on the things that set you apart, the value you're offering in a way that nobody else is, leveraging your humanity, your team, your methodology, your approach, whatever those elements are, get those down on paper and come up with, this is a huge part of the work I do, but you can do this on your own too. Come up with like 3 pillar things, like 3 ways that it's like, okay, this is part of my unique value and I'm going to position myself around this. And positioning means you're talking about those 3 things all the time. So your content is coming up with new ways to articulate that, you are the best at this. As an example, I use my comprehensive approach as a unique value positioning pillar for Electric Collab. I don't just do a logo. I won't just do a sales page. I have this 3-phase system that I believe delivers the best results. And I have client evidence to back that up, right? So I talk about that approach on Instagram, on LinkedIn. I'm talking about it here now in a podcast, like finding ways to inject those 2 or 3 core things that you're really going to stand for and stand out for. That's how you position yourself, so that when somebody hears that and they think, okay, I actually do need help with all of it. Like, I need strategy, I need a website. I don't want to find 6 different vendors. I want one person. They're going to come to me because I've been talking about that all the time. And that's the exact type of client I want to help. So just getting clear on them is the first step, and then talk about them everywhere. That's really how you position yourself to attract the right people.
Okay, I have a fun creative question for you. This just
Okay.
like popped up in my brain. It's gonna be like a creative exercise. Let's see if we can work this out. Okay,
I love it.
so I want to use your branding and positioning chops. I just imagined. I'm always thinking about Disney movies where people sell certain things, right?
Mhm.
And the movie Frozen comes to mind, where they're all like selling ice. Like, that's all they have. Everyone up there sells ice, and I'm
Mhm.
sure there's different ice vendors, but one of the ice vendors, particularly, I don't know, a guy named Christoph, that's like, in cahoots with Honor or whatever. He comes
Mhm.
up to you and he's like, hey, I'm really trying to stand out and sell this ice here, but everyone else sells ice in this kingdom. Like, what the heck, Emily? What do I do? What's cool about me as Christoph? Like, how do I
Yeah.
sell my ice?
Yes. Okay. So many different angles this guy could take, and it depends on what he's actually doing different. So, like, is he gonna deliver the ice to your house? Is he
Yeah.
gonna like bring it in and set it up for you if that's the
Oh
thing you
yeah.
need with ice?
He used to be plating the ice.
Yeah, plating the ice. Does he have a higher quality ice? Like, it's clearer, it has like perfectly crisp corners. Does he have a way that he stores the ice that makes it melt more slowly than what other people are doing? Or is he just really fun to work with? Like, when you come up, does he say like, oh my gosh, Elizabeth, we talked last week and you told me that your kid is sick. Like, is that person feeling better? Like, is he just more interesting and exciting to talk to? If the product isn't that different and there's no way to differentiate that, how are you building a relationship with clients in a different way than maybe what somebody else is doing? Is there a backstory there? Like, is this a family legacy where they've been selling ice before anybody else was selling ice? So in theory, they know how to do it better, or they've been doing it the longest, or what? So there's so many angles you can take, but yeah, that's a great
I
example.
love that.
And
No, no, it is, because I like seeing your creativity, like the in works in process, because you said something important. Sometimes if there are many products that are the same, for example, ice, and they're really not that different, I agree that you can also differentiate with customer experience and core values instead of product features
Mhm.
or what it does or whatever, right? So
Absolutely.
do you feel that same way too? Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. And I think that's an overlooked thing. I mean, it's not
Mm,
just about the product. Even if your product is a service, like let's say you trademark businesses
right.
or you sell vintage clothing, it doesn't matter what the thing is. Yes, like the product has to be good or the
Mhm.
caliber of service, you have to register that trademark properly. Of course. That's like bare minimum to even
Mhm.
sustain in business. But there's so much that goes into that. Like for the trademark example, how much education are you giving to me? Do I feel like I'm in the loop for the whole 12 months that it takes to get this registered? How are you explaining the fees? If there's a problem, are you going to handle that on my behalf or am I going to have to pay more for that? Like there's so many pieces of the experience itself that are critical to the customer. And I think sometimes we forget to talk about that all the time, the way you're handling that, your approach to that, why you think certain pieces of the experience are more important than others. That's a huge way to differentiate.
Well, I think of, some of the hotels that I've visited in the Disney area. I have preferences for staying at certain hotels versus others,
Sure.
simply because of that level of attention or service that you're discussing, right? So it's like similar, like, yeah, there's a bunch of hotels, they're all a room, there's a person at the front desk, you sleep there, it's great, whatever.
Mhm.
But why do we choose one over the other? And at the end of the day, yeah, maybe one's prettier, but we go back to the one where we had a memorable, positive, consistent experience. And in Disney, and I think they do that well. And a lot of places they do that well. And I think maybe one of the harder places to achieve that type of level or standard is when a business offers a service as a product, for example, right? So when you're working with someone that doesn't have a physical product, or like
Mhm.
you said, they have like a service or education or whatever, like what's one thing that you've noticed is successful in a brand in that way that helps somebody achieve their goals and attract those dream clients for them?
Mhm. When you are selling something that is not tangible or maybe seemingly not tangible, talk about why it matters before you explain how it works. There's such an inclination to get into like, here's what will happen. We'll start with a call and then we'll do a roadmap and then we'll have two more one-on-one sessions, and you're really explaining the how instead of explaining why does this matter in the first place? What are you getting? What desire is going to be fulfilled? Am I saving you time, money, energy, worry, doubt? Am I making you feel more sexier, whatever the actual end result is? That's what you want to lead with. Talk about that first. And then the way you get them there, that becomes important later. Once the person is kind of like vibing with you, and they're like, okay, I'm intrigued. It sounds like what you deliver is exactly what I have been looking for. Now tell me like exactly what will happen if I give you money, right? And then you can get more tactical. But I think it's a very common mistake to lead with those tactical pieces. And you really want that emotional connection based on why this matters, the value that you're delivering to come first.
How do you help entrepreneurs or solopreneurs or whoever, anyone in business, really balance the personal and the business branding? And I bring this up because now more than ever, there is a difference, and I see that sometimes we can forget that one is just maybe as equally as important as the other. So how do you go about that?
I get this question a lot. So when you think about, if we'll just start with like the origin of your business. If you're
Right.
on the fence between, should I name it my name? Should I really be the face of my business? Do I have to be the face of my business? Or should I pick something outside of me? Like making that kind of top level decision. Ask yourself how you want the business to be running in 5 years, in 10 years, in 20 years. If you are in a position where your goal is to hire a team and become less involved, if you want a sustainable system that kind of functions without you, if you want to sell the business one day, think about the fact that, if to sell a business that's called Emily Paulsen, if Emily Paulsen works on it 1 hour a week, nobody's going to buy that. That doesn't make sense, right? Like it feels like a bait and switch. Like, well, isn't Emily the one creating the logo? Isn't Emily the one doing all the things? So think about that as much as you can. It's hard to predict the future from the beginning. On the other side of that, if you want a business model that's a paid newsletter and people are really paying for your thoughts, for your feelings, for your perspective, and that is the service that you're selling, then name it after you, because people are going to associate with you and you want that. I think we kind of get too black and white. Like it either needs to be a personal brand and I share every single thing about my life, including all the personal details and my kids' faces and, all these things, or it's a business brand and I don't show my face at all. And especially in the beginning, if you're an entrepreneur, I think there's a hybrid that exists in the middle. Whether you name the business after you or not, you have to have some humanity attached to your brand. Like everything we've been talking about, something to cling on to and connect with. And it makes sense for you to be that in the early days. That doesn't mean that you have to share all the details of your life. It doesn't mean that you have to inject your personal life or behaviors into the brand or into your content, but you need some type of human touch, either through you, through a team member, thinking about the brand's personality and how you can make that feel human on its own, sharing customer stories, customer journeys, some level of human touch. And, there's a way to kind of exist in the middle without feeling like, you have to choose on day one and then you're not going to be able to evolve past that. I don't think that's true or realistic. Can be a
No,
middle.
you're right. I think it's an evolution too, because I've gone through this personally. Like as I work with different people, I learn what I liked about that ICP, that person, that profile of a type of a customer, and then I evolve from there. But I also wonder too. I want to hear your thoughts on this. Have you ever seen Duolingo's brand before?
I have.
The
Mhm.
little bird mascot.
Yes.
I love the idea of there, like you said, a medium existing where it's like something's personified but it's not really somebody's face. I also think of Disney with Mickey
Yes.
as the mascot. Like, talk to me
Mhm.
about mascots and branding. Do you think they're a thing to stay, or what do you
Yes.
think about it?
Yeah, no, I think absolutely. Disney is a prime example. I mean, he named it after himself, right? So it was started by one man, rooted in one person. But of course, like that one man can't do it all. Like he's not the animator, he's not doing
Right.
every single piece of the business himself. And it really has taken on a life and identity of its own outside of him. And there's so many fun things to play with a brand like Disney. Yeah, all the animals, all of the characters. I mean, the characters feel like people, right? And they
Right.
definitely felt like people to us when we were little. So it's so nostalgic. Like that's how we remember them. That's how we see them. I mean, I was thinking like, oh yeah, I'm Simba. That's a
Yes.
imaginary lion cub.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I feel like, oh yeah, like I vibes,
I'm
like we're
Simba.
the same.
Me. That's
Yeah,
me.
me. And that Disney in particular, like it is about childhood magic. It's about being playful and
Mhm.
cheerful and like the simple innocence and hope of the world. So fluffy, adorable characters make sense with that. But there are other ways to do it too. Like Duolingo, that's a education
Right.
platform. And they're trying to make learning fun with something that is fun and light and airy. So there are ways to inject humanity. Even in if you're in a very serious brand with a serious cause, there's ways to do that too, through personal stories or even societal stats. I've been working with a coach she coaches people who are on parental leave and partners with companies to really support parents before, during, and after maternity or paternity leave. So we can paint a really human story by talking about the real statistics that almost half of women don't go back into the workplace after they have a baby. Like, that pulls on some type of emotional level for any
Right.
woman or any employer that's like, oh, is that okay? So there's so many different tactics you can use to inject that humanity, but one way or another, you got to get it in there to build that emotional connection.
Right. I think there's that's what commonly happens even in like the B2B niche. Like we've made a logo, there's like, something, and it's like, okay, this is a serious business. We're all very doing important work. Like there's no room to mess around. There's no room to have cute fluffy logos. What the heck? But at the same time, sometimes it's really just about, okay, pretend there's no logo or whatever. Like something has to be at the forefront, right? Like something or someone or some kind of feeling. Like basically, if you don't look at something and feel if you look at something and don't feel anything at all, like what are you? what are you doing? Like, what are you doing?
Exactly. Well
Right.
said. Exactly right.
But speaking of that, that was a cool client story, by the way. That's such a cool thing, a service that she offers. That's
Mhm.
awesome. But is there any other project that really holds a special place in your heart as you've worked with everybody over the years with your business?
It's so hard to choose because I become obsessed with all of them.
I know, it's like asking you to pick a favorite child. I'm so
I
sorry.
know, I know. It's
Is there
yeah, I
one
mean,
that, like, stands out for, like, any reason whatsoever?
yes, yes, something does come to mind. I feel like the brand building process is so therapeutic in a lot of ways, and which makes it a huge privilege for me to be able to bring that to my clients and to be part of that transformation and kind of uncovering. And I had a client, and I'll share this because this is public knowledge that she's shared with her brand, but she's a cancer survivor. And while we were working together mid project, she had a very serious cancer scare that it was recurring and that it was back, and she was kind of undergoing these tests and waiting for results while we're literally talking about like the copy and the positioning and the visual design. And for one thing, I felt just incredibly privileged to even be in the know on that. I mean, the things that clients are willing to trust me with and share with me is, it's hugely fulfilling to me as a person to be involved in their life in that way. But it was just I mean, it turned out she did not have cancer. She was cancer free. So it ended in a really good result. And she's a meditation coach, and she does have services specifically for people going through health challenges. So just seeing her manage that and really use the services she sells to regulate her own emotions and work herself through this incredibly difficult time. It was so beautiful to watch. And not that, part of it, you feel like nothing matters, right? Like health is everything. Like life is so short. Like it does put things in perspective. But from the project point of view, at the end of it, I mean, the result of that and the brand she has is incredibly authentic. It's so gritty and real because that was happening when it was being created and shared with the world. So that project is particularly sacred to me.
That's amazing, and also, wow, what an experience to go through. That must have been crazy to go through. Oh my
I mean, crazy
gosh.
for her, for sure. And I felt like,
Yes.
I'm like up all night, like, oh my God, she gets the test tomorrow. Like, it's just,
Oh,
these things, these real life things, right? Like we're business
man.
owners, but we're people, and there's a lot
Yeah.
going on behind the background. And yeah, it's just integrating all of it is challenging, but special to support each other through that.
No, and rewarding as well too. I think that's rare to be able to find the integration there. And I think something that you said stood out to me, authenticity. I personally feel like authenticity is a trend that we're going to see more in branding in the future from here on out. But I'm curious in general, to hear what you see for trends in 2024 and maybe next year for what branding will be looking like, and which of them you think are like actually good. Because I think we see trends and then we're like, ooh, shiny, I want to do it, and then we try it and then we go back to what we were doing before.
Mhm.
And we need you to illuminate us with that.
Yeah, I think there are trends and there are movements. And what you were just saying with authenticity, I totally agree. To me, that is a movement. Like we are sick of the boring corporate jargon, like telling us that you are the best, leading with this corporate soaked mission statement. That's not exciting. It's not energizing. There's no personal connection there. And frankly, there are just too many businesses now that's not going to stand out. If you write copy like that, it sounds just like everybody else and just like chat gpt and what AI is spitting out. So I do think authenticity and showing personality, your personality or the brand's personality that you've assigned to that, I think that is a movement that's not going to go anywhere. And it just makes every single business, it's like just the way we wear clothing, right? Like if we had two options, if we were only wearing black or white, that would be horrible. But we have so much flexibility, so much nuance. Like even you and I could both love pink, but we would probably wear pink really differently. There's just so much to play with, and the subtlety of that. And all those little things make a difference in what we're drawn to, what we're attracted to, what we're willing to spend money on. So I definitely think that's a movement of just more realness, grittiness, kind of letting the professional veil drop and being more of ourselves. Trends, what, design things like, oh, these types of fonts are really hot for 2024,
I'm
or
seeing very similar fonts this year. They're very specific.
very specific, or really linear clean designs, or a certain pops of neon, whatever the trends are. I really encourage people to just ignore that. The goal with the visual components of branding are to build something that is recognizable and memorable over time. And if every single year you're like, okay, hot pink is huge this year, or the Pantone color of the year is bright yellow, I'm going to use that in my brand, there's nothing for people to remember over time. I mean, you're just changing it too much. And we know it takes people, they used to say 7 times to remember something. I've heard things now, it's up to 20. Our attention spans are getting shorter. Content's insane. So, you want to have something that you stick with. And the way that you do that is by thinking back to the emotional piece. I'm like a broken record, color psychology. Like if I sell something to really stressed out, overworked moms, I'm not going to make my colors bold black and big red. Like, that's overstimulating.
Orange.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
I don't know.
Don't
Just that
make
word is like a lot. I don't know.
yeah, right. Like, don't do that, right? Because it's just, someone's going to land there and be like, ick, which subconsciously, and just like click away. This is too much. Or the way you use text, like tons and tons of copy. If somebody has no time, they're not going to read any of that. They're going to click away. So it's more about thinking of who you are, thinking of who your ideal client is, and making choices that align with that and feel really good to that person. I mean, Hermes is very different from Old Navy, and that's on purpose, right? Like, they sell different things for different reasons to different types of people. So I just encourage people, use Pinterest for fun, but never get too connected to a trend. That's just a hamster wheel that is endless and useless.
And it's tiresome too. I think if
Yes.
you get caught on that merry-go-round of trends, up and down, everything's changing all the time. Yeah, it can be distracting too from what you're really trying to do. And I've felt that way. I think we've all felt that way before. We see something cool and we go, "Ooh, I want to save that. I want to try it." So having something written down, like maybe like you said, like, this comprehensive 3 stages that you've gone through with somebody, like, I feel like if I've gone through those 3 stages, I'm less quickly and likely to go, I think I'm just gonna change everything now.
Yes. Yeah.
Because you had the time to, like, really look at it and process it,
Yes.
basically.
Yeah. Once you create it really thoughtfully with a lot of intention, and you know the reason, like, we didn't just pick this shade of peach because, once you know
Yes.
the reason behind it, it's so much easier to just let those things exist. And then, to your point, focus on the rest of the business. We have so much to do. Like, don't waste time tweaking when that's not going to make any difference. And it's probably going to make things worse, just confusing your audience. Yeah, focus on delivering the products, the services, the expertise that you're best at.
I think that it's really awesome how you've been able to help women specifically, really bring these ideas and dreams that they have to life. I think that's part of the reason why I wanted you on the show too, because it's almost like I'm loving to bring on the fairy godmothers of different categories of business, and I feel like having somebody like you, it gives somebody like you said that vulnerability and space to really just be like, hey man, I don't know what's going on with what I'm doing with my business. Like, can you help me? And I'm sure somebody listening to this who's really trying to attract that dream client, or maybe they're struggling with branding, they're looking for some inspiration. They're looking for some advice. So, what advice would you give to a woman who's trying to build her brand or her business that is stuck in the branding muck, if you will, for lack of better words, and
Mhm.
to how would you help them to stay resilient and the challenges of that journey for them?
Resiliency is so important and so hard. I do think it's a muscle that gets stronger every time you use it. And the best advice I could give is to get comfortable with being an expert, thinking of yourself as an expert, referring to yourself as an expert, sharing your truth, your approach, your method, all of those things in a big, bold way. Not that that has to happen overnight. And there are so many different methods you can use to do that. I don't think you have to be on Instagram stories, or there's so many different ways. Whatever, start with what's most comfortable for you. Maybe it's long form blog content. Maybe it's an email newsletter. Maybe you love doing stuff like this, like I do, and doing podcasts. Maybe audio is easier for you than writing. Whatever methodology is going to make you more likely to do it, you can choose that. But I think the bigger piece is really getting comfortable with saying, no, I do know what I'm talking about. I have a background in this, or I have client results to prove it, or I have an insane level of passion for this, and embrace that. I have noticed working with women, especially, I think this is challenging for all people once you go into the entrepreneurial space, but I think with women, especially, when I'm reflecting back to them why they are an expert and why they should be taken seriously and they should be raising their prices and, all these things about their credibility and their expertise, I mean, people cry. It's just so rare that we really embody that as women, or that we really have time or space to even think about embodying that and what that looks like and what that feels like. And I think that's really important, because there will certainly be times, like you said, it is a roller coaster. There are times when things do not go as planned. You're disappointed. Something upsetting happens. That is inevitable. I don't think it's worth wasting time trying to predict what those things will be. They're going to happen. And in those moments, being able to reflect back, this is a disappointing setback, but I know my worth. I know this work is important. I'll take the rest of the day. I'll get up tomorrow and I'll go again. I think that's a really underrated and necessary piece of not just sticking with it, but enjoying it when you're getting through those roller coaster moments.
Enjoying it through the roller coaster moments. I think that's so hard sometimes. And it's so important to remember that it still is a ride. You have to take the moments and look back and go and say, hey, yeah, this is not a life or death thing. Like, if I can't pick my favorite colors or my messaging by the end of today, like, hopefully nobody's gonna die, right? like
Right.
It's okay to take your time, but also act like you said. Okay, so let's go back to Disney World brain thinking, because that was like really deep. So like we have to go back on a little bit of a detour to as someone who's really helping craft, in my opinion, stories for brands. That's what I feel like branding at the end of the day really is. It's like this full story. What kind of elements from Disney would you say are similar ones, or that you kind of implement in the strategy of the brand itself? Like, what's your own Disney magic that you apply into the work with your clients? That's the best way I would ask that.
Okay. Let me try to answer. Disney is certainly a masterclass in branding. And I think it's for a few reasons. I mean, one, I could say they know their unique value, and I think they do. I think they really see the place that they play in, or the place that they take up in people's lives. It is about nostalgia. It's about feeling lighter, kind of forgetting your worries, just embracing the moment, being okay, being silly, funny, it's playful, it's very sweet, it's endearing, all of those things. And we crave that as humans. There is a time and place for that in our lives. And they've gone all in with that unique value that they're offering. And they're offering it in a very unique way. I mean, it's so immersive, right? You can get that feeling sitting on your couch watching a movie at the end of a really crappy day, or you can do a really luxurious 5-star over-the-top experience at one of their theme parks. So they're offering it in a variety of ways, but no matter how you partake, it's an extremely cohesive experience. Like, from, as you said, the scent that they are pumping into shops in the park, to the font that they use in the credits, to the way they do, there's everything we could point to. You could see something and be like, oh, that's probably Disney. Even merchandise in a store, right? A chapstick. It's like, oh, that looks like Disney chapstick. So they've done such a nice job of solidifying that design. They haven't changed their font. They haven't changed the logo. They have a certain look. They have a certain color palette. And there's been a lot of trend changes since 1955 or whatever to now, or even before that, right? The 40s. So, look how they've stuck with it, and look how that consistency over time has really made them not just a household name, but incredibly visually recognizable and emotionally recognizable as well. So I think the cohesion through the experience, the consistency, makes it work now and always. Like that's really when you get to something that is timeless. We're always going to crave the feeling that they deliver, and they're doing it in a way that is so cohesive. We'll always know where to go to get that feeling, and it's Disney.
Yeah, that's very well said. And I think, again, take everything that we're saying here and just brainstorm what does that look like for your brand if you're listening to this. That's the most important thing because, at the end of the day, you're not a multi-million dollar brand like Disney, but there are little things that you can do that can be inspired by it if you choose to do it.
Mhm.
So last couple questions for you. They're a little random, but I just decided we're
Oh,
gonna go for it. Okay.
I'm
So
ready.
have you ever seen the movie Enchanted before by any chance?
No.
Okay, I'm gonna give the synopsis. So basically, long story short, it's about this animated princess and she gets thrown into the real life world of New York basically,
Okay.
and she's suddenly thrown into the real life world of New York, and she
Okay.
has to like learn how to be a normal person in in New York, like a human, while still also trying to stay true to herself and what she believes in. And I feel like in today's market, there's a lot of people who were working at a corporate job. They were thinking of life as one way, they were used to it, and then suddenly they were laid off, and now they're thrown into an entirely different universe, and they're trying to build their own business, and
Mhm.
they're trying to figure out where to act, what the villains are. There's all this stuff happening, and it just feels like a fish out of water. Like that's really the essence of what I'm trying to say. So,
Mhm. Mhm.
um, for someone who is feeling that, they're like it's like week 2 of them deciding like, "All right, here we go. I didn't wanna come to this ball. I didn't wanna come to this party, but we're gonna try this. I'm gonna try to figure it out." Like, what would you tell that person?
Yes. Yeah, I would say listen to the client. Like if you're not even ready to really be able to listen to yourself and like, okay, where am I headed? Or you have too many ideas, right? It's usually not that we don't know what we want or we don't know what we want to say. We have too many things we could say. So if you're not there yet, think about the person you want to serve. Like you have some idea for this business, right? Even 2 weeks in, like before week one, right? You had something, you're like, okay, what if I start a business to do X? Who is that business for? And just really use your energy to connect with what are their problems, what do they need. If you're in communication with people who are your potential clients, actually listen to the words they're using and the emotions that you can tell they're feeling. Like, are they energized, are they tired, are they overwhelmed, are they whatever. And really just tap into that person. And then I think from there things start to reveal themselves. Like, okay, it sounds like I talked to this person and they are, I don't know, I'm totally making this up. They're a restaurant owner. And the worst part of owning a restaurant is staffing and they can't get people who want to come early in the morning. Okay. So, like, that is their biggest pain point. What could I do if I'm helping restaurant owners? How could I solve that problem? And you just become obsessed with what is the solution? What is the solution that I'm going to bring? I think focusing your energy on that instead of thinking, how am I going to make money 10 years from now? Or like, how am I going to scale this to be $1 million business? Or how do I replicate Disney's success in the first 2 weeks? That's not going to happen. and by the way, the way Disney got to be so successful was by providing this awesome solution. So I think focusing on that first and have client conversations, have just personal conversations, have conversations with other entrepreneurs, just be talking about your idea, be talking about what you think the business is, see how people react, and just listen to what people are really asking for. When you focus on that, you'll hear it. You'll know, like, okay, this is a problem that I could solve.
I also think too, getting used to change and being okay with it. Back
Mhm.
to full circle to the movie The Lion King. There's a quote that Rafiki says, and he says, "Change is good." And I
Mhm.
always think about that. Change is
Mhm.
good. It can be scary, but it can be good. And if you are having trouble with that change and you're trying to figure out, all right, I need a fairy godmother for my brand to help me through it, how can people connect with you, Emily, so that they can find that help for themselves?
I would love to be your fairy godmother. What a dream title. Brand fairy godmother. I'll take it.
Yes.
Yes, yes. I would love to connect. You can always find me. My website is electriccollab.com. And there's a button there. You can book time directly on my calendar. I love meeting new people. I love talking branding, all about you, your business, anything. So that's always available. You can find me on Instagram at Hey Emily Paulsen. You can find me on LinkedIn at Hey Emily Paulsen. And yeah, don't be shy. If it's not evident yet, I love to talk, and I really love talking about this. So yeah, if you have any questions or are looking for support, don't hesitate to get in touch.
That is awesome. And yes, I hope to just on this show bring together all of the fairy godmothers that can that can help. And then one day we all meet and hang out at Disney and then we can have it be a write-off. Like that's the
Perfect.
dream. All right, Emily. Well, thank you so much for being on this show today. I really enjoyed hearing more about your journey and getting educated about the branding advice that you have to offer for us today. Like Emily said, she gave us all her information. So make sure to catch this replay, this live stream replay on YouTube if you want to watch our beautiful faces or listen to it on the podcast. But this has been a magical time and I really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Emily.
Thank you so much.
Awesome, awesome. Well, let's cue the outro magic music. Yeah. You've been listening to Bippity Boppity Business. Like what you hear so far? Leave us a review in Apple or listen to us anywhere you prefer listening to your podcast. Until next time, have a magical day.